everyone, Lucinda here from Eco Health Solutions. I was just popping on because Sue asked a great question in our Healthy and Safe Living group about some good books to start with if you're interested in healthy and safe living, building biology, etc. So I just went and raided my bookshelves and found a whole pile of books here. So I'm not sure, I can't see who just joined, but it's Joan. Hi Joan, how are you? So I'm going to start with one of the first books that I ever found that got me inspired and got me thinking about this. So this is from 1989, so it's actually really, really old. So it's called It's Not Easy Being Green. I have to love the title because it's inspired by Kermit, which was funny. But this is all about cleaning up your environment, and this was one of the first books that made me aware of chemicals in the environment, things that we can do in terms of recycling and things like that. So I think very ahead of its time. Not sure if it's still in print, but definitely one of my favourites. Around the same time, I got this book. Can you see that? Yeah. The Clean House Effect. And this basically goes through lots of different ideas for cleaning. So that's practical things that you can do in terms of cleaning, keeping flowers alive, household related stuff, again without chemicals. Sorry about the wobbly camera here. But yeah, anyway, sorry. Then one of the next books that I found would have been this one. So Peter Dingle, who's from WA, I often rave about him. This is Your Home Making You Sick? And this is a book that I've got loads of bookmarks. I've sort of underlined to you know, goodness knows what. I've just underlined all the important things because most of the book is so pertinent and so interesting and relevant. Hey Suzanne, thanks for joining us. Another book that I found not so long after was a book by Dr. Sarah Lance, which is The Chemical-Free Kids. Again, really interesting in terms of chemicals and how they affect people. Now for me, my journey started with chemicals because I became chemically sensitive first. So that's what got me interested in the first place. So then, where do I go from here? I'm just going to be a little bit random, I think. They're not in any particular order now. But The Chemical Maze. Now, I've got this as a book, but it is by Bill Statham, and he is Australian, and he doesn't update the books anymore, but he's got an app. So if you haven't got the app, this is definitely one, The Chemical Maze, that you want to get hold of. Okay, I'll go with this one next. Actually, yeah, this one. So this is Slow Death by Rubber Duck, and this is Rick Smith and Bruce Laurie. Bruce Laurie actually was one of my speakers at the Environmental Sensitivity Symposium in 2015. Yeah, that's right, I'm checking my pile of books here. This is a fantastic book. It's absolutely fascinating. What they did was they experimented on themselves, found what happened, what were the results, they actually measured the results of doing certain things. The follow-up book from the two of them, Tox In, Tox Out. So this is much more of a practical way to get things in and out of your body. Well, not in, you're doing that inadvertently, but getting them back out again. So I really love this book by the same authors as Slow Death by Rubber Duck. Another one of my favourite books. Now, I am an indoor air quality fanatic. I think that's one of my greatest passions, is understanding that really tiny detail. I get really excited by the idea of looking at things through a microscope, and this book, this author just blew me away. So Jeffrey May, he did things like, so this is My House is Killing Me. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, My House is Killing Me. This book, I love it. He does stuff like he's bought a jacket from a secondhand store that sort of smells a bit strange, and he shakes it into a bag, looks at that under a microscope, and then talks about all the stuff that he discovered in it. Again, bookmarked like crazy. I love that kind of stuff. It gets me very, very excited. Now, going into different areas. So this is a book that's probably not a good place to start with EMF, but it's a book to follow on to. This is The Force by Lynn McLean. She's from EMR Australia. Fabulous woman, been working in the field for about 20 years, really knows her stuff. This is quite a hefty book. Probably not the best place to start. I'd recommend starting with this one by her, which is The Wireless Wise Family. So in this book, she goes through very practical, very simple things in terms of wireless technology. In terms of suggestions, I'm just trying to find you a page to show you. But so she goes through what the problems are to start with, and then she goes through different ways of dealing with things in terms of wise. So just if you look at the blue, font. So wise, wiser, and wisest. So steps. So wise is like the beginning, wiser, and then wiser. So, you know, as you're more advanced with all of this. If you're really interested in research papers and that kind of level of reading, the Power Watch Handbook is absolutely a go-to for that kind of thing. This book I find really fascinating. It's Alistair and Jean Phillips. They were involved in the early work around the effects of magnetic fields on health. Now, I'm going to have a little bit of trouble here. I'm resting my elbow to steady the tablet on my pile of books, and I'm up to that pile now. So bear with me, it might get a bit wobbly. This is a brand new book. So it is something I mentioned a week or so ago, The Digital Pied Piper Effect, and that is by Savani. I have to remember to say her name properly. Saravanamuthu. She was also a speaker at the Environmental Sensitivity Symposium. She's in India, and she's got her PhD in the health effects of EMF. She does fascinating work, and this is a really fascinating read. So highly recommend this as well. Getting something up from under my elbow. A book that's already been mentioned in the thread so far is Nicole's book, Nicole Belsma, Healthy Home, Healthy Family. This is a mammoth read. Now, this is the 3rd edition, and this is by far the best. This is fabulous. There's about 870 references, I think, in there. It's a really, really interesting read. It's in layman's terms. It's very simple to implement and do things with. Now, the next 2 books and the last 2 books in the pile, as I get them out from underneath my elbow, are the Environmental Sensitivity Symposium books. Now, these are books that I compiled. This first one is based on the 2015 Environmental Sensitivity Symposium, and what we did with this one was we transcribed all of the interviews because I wanted everybody to have access to the information. So given that people with environmental sensitivities generally can't access things, they can't go to events, so I did it online. People with electrohypersensitivity aren't going to be spending a lot of time on the computer. So what I did was have everything transcribed, had the book printed so that they could actually read all of the information, because I think that group misses out on a lot of the latest stuff. This one is the 2016 Environmental Sensitivity Symposium, book also compiled by me. What I did was I got each of the speakers, which are featured here on the back, to write a paper for the book, and then we did an interview surrounding that. So that is a pile of probably about 12 books that are my top favourite ones that I thought were most interesting and relevant to what we've been talking about. Obviously, there's loads of other books I love reading and stacks of research papers. But in terms of starting out, I hope that's a little bit of a guide. Obviously, these are books I know about and like, but I would love to hear what you think. What are some of your favourite books? What are the things that you have found inspiring? Please feel free to share. I think it's important to share and pool our resources and information, because together we can make a really big difference in our own lives, but also in those of others. So I hope that helps you, and I look forward to catching you again soon. Have a great weekend.